The traffic's already getting very bad. People are just trying to get out of here.
Right now on the National Weather Desk, closing in on Florida. Final preparation for Hurricane Milton's arrival are underway this morning, and our team of reporters and experts has you covered. From the latest path,
it's been doing some wobbles in its path, and every little wobble has an impact,
to current conditions.
Any kind of storm surge that comes in here would inundate some of these areas.
And the push to get ready.
Now the only thing we can do is just hope that it's not going to be that bad.
Plus, an in-depth look at storm surge.
It kills more people than any other aspect of the storm.
And dramatic video of the storm from the air and on the water.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Emma Withrow. Hurricane Milton remains a powerful Category 5 storm this morning with sustained winds of 160 miles per hour. And while it's expected to weaken before landfall tonight or early tomorrow, it's still going to be one of the strongest hurricanes to strike Florida's Gulf Coast. Millions of people are heeded dire warnings and evacuated from the coast. That's all because the storm's expected to bring a life-threatening storm surge of up to 15 feet. The Tampa area is most at risk if the storm makes a direct strike. A wobble south of just a few miles could spare the city from massive flooding. There's also a risk of tornadoes in southern and central Florida today. A major concern from that is the debris from Hurricane Helene that still lines many of these streets. The fear is that if powerful winds will turn those items into projectiles, which will just create an even greater devastation. Sandbags are a must-have item for people who are not evacuating here. This is a line near Orlando, roughly 70 miles from the coast. People waited hours to get some for their homes. The U.S. Coast Guard got a hint of what's to come later today. It encountered 7 to 8 foot waves and high winds in the Gulf of Mexico on Monday, about 600 miles from the eye of the storm. And here's a look at what beaches along the Gulf Coast look like this morning. Many are already seeing rain from Milton's outer bands. Conditions will really only deteriorate throughout the day. We're also tracking Milton from all angles this morning, starting with meteorologist Avery Tomasca with the latest on the hurricane's path.
This all started a couple of days ago. You noticed that as it was at its strongest, 180 mile per hour winds on Monday evening, that eye wall got so small that it basically shredded itself apart and had to create a new one. Became very well defined yesterday, and notice as we get a little further in time, all the way up to right now, that eye wall is shrinking and starting to rip itself apart again. As that happens, the wind field expands. That's happening as we speak, and on final approach to Florida late tonight, early tomorrow morning, tropical storm force winds will envelop most of the state of Florida, and the strongest winds will be, of course, right there at the center of the eye of rotation for Milton. The larger wind field means storm surge, regardless of the category it is listed at landfall, is going to be significant, record-setting, 10 to 15 feet around Tampa Bay, 8 to 12 feet closer to Fort Myers. The next question is, well, we know this is going to be a disaster. Where exactly is it going to make landfall? It's been doing some wobbles in its path, and every little wobble has an impact. Namely, the track has shifted ever so slightly farther to the south. Late tonight, early tomorrow morning, Category 4 landfall in Florida. A terrible storm.
And final preparations for Milton's arrival are already underway this morning. Tampa General Hospital once again installed flood barriers to protect the building. It's designed to withstand a storm surge of 15 feet. So Darwin Singleton is in Tampa this morning, where the heavy rain is already falling.
It is starting to deteriorate. The weather is here. We've had on and off again rain showers, which is associated with those bands that are coming in from Milton right now. And now it's starting to get more saturated as this storm gets closer to us. But you can see behind us here, this is the Hillsborough River that feeds into Hillsborough Bay and Tampa Bay. It's quite placid this morning. We haven't seen any change in height, but the storm has not gotten this close yet. Also, you must remember that if this storm does indeed go south of Tampa Bay, then we won't see the storm surge that had been predicted for this area, which could have been as high as 15 feet. And you can see with Tampa General Hospital there, that would be quite a problem, although they have erected an aqua fence over there to try to keep their first floor dry. But this whole city is built on the river, and that will be definitely a problem. You see a lot of very expensive yachts that are parked over there. They are taking shelter from the storm, but if we had a 15-foot storm surge come up this river, you can imagine what that might look like if that happens.
Airplanes and ships are avoiding the area around Milton, obviously. This map from FlightAware shows all planes early yesterday afternoon. You can see Milton right there in the middle, and then the planes are obviously just flying all around it. It's the same story on the water. This shows all the ships in the Gulf yesterday. As you can see, there's that big open area just north of the Yucatan. And as we've been saying, time to prepare for this storm is running out. Our team of reporters is across the impacted areas to see how people are getting ready. We start with Karis Haram in Gainesville, Florida.
As Hurricane Milton eyes Florida, residents in Gainesville are getting ready for the worst.
I just want to be more prepared for it and everything like that. So this time get some sandbags and everything for flooding purposes. I bought more groceries and I got a cooler and lots of water.
The city of Gainesville provided 2 locations to get sandbags.
We did about 8,000 bags yesterday.
He says historically, Alachua County has been a hub for evacuees, but hotels in the area are at capacity.
Currently, there are no vacancy rates in Alachua County for hotels. Our shelters, if they do get filled, there are contingency shelters in place to help with displaced people.
While residents we spoke with say they are concerned about the storm's impacts, including gasoline shortages and power outages, most tell us they're not evacuating.
We're not moving. We're not moving. We hung it out with Helene and she was closer to us than Milton is, so we're going to hang it out.
I'm used to it. No big deal.
Preparing for Hurricane Milton is different for everybody here in the coastal community of Clearwater, depending on whether they're evacuating or hunkering down trying to find last-minute groceries.
We're getting last-minute preparation, some last-minute ice, some food, just in case, who knows.
The cats and the dogs was out of treats, so I had to come and get some for them.
But with thousands of locals evacuating, gas stations all over this area are sold out and shut down. All around Clearwater, storm shutters are up and boards cover windows and doors.
Everything is pretty much ready, as much as it can be, so now it's just, we're prepared, we're waiting, and now the only thing we can do is just hope that it's not going to be that bad.
Pinellas County Emergency Management has been working around the clock after Hurricane Helene, and now they're bracing for Milton.
It is going to be more storm surge, and it's also going to be really devastating winds that we didn't see last time. It could be lethal.
That's why officials tell us the best course of action is to evacuate now.
Hurricane Milton is expected to reach the Orlando area on Thursday, but right now, as of Tuesday evening, everything here seems calm, and it seems that everything is moving per usual. Now, every gas station we've passed so far, we have seen several people. Almost all of the cars and spots at the gas stations are filled with people filling up their tanks in anticipation of this hurricane making its way here. There are some puddles and rising water in the ditches along some of the roadways. That is what we believe to be from earlier rainfall.
Also getting ready here is Florida power companies. Linemen in their bucket trucks are arriving from out of state, ready to get to work once the storm passes. A large number of people across Florida are expected to lose power in the storm. NOAA's hurricane hunters are giving us unique views inside of Milton. Monday's ride aboard a plane named Miss Piggy was bumpy for the crew. Many items went flying as the plane flew through 150-mile-per-hour winds. Crew members were able to capture whitecaps on the Gulf surface, intense lightning in the storm, and even the sun peeking through the clouds. One veteran called it the strongest storm of his career. Here's another view from 254 miles above Earth. Astronaut Matthew Dominic took it from Dragon Endeavour, which is docked with the International Space Station. You can really see the size and the scope of the hurricane with this picture. Milton also passed through north of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula on Thursday. And while it didn't take a direct hit, Milton left behind damage due to its strong winds, intense waves, and heavy rain, which sparked flooding. Docks are destroyed and boats are definitely damaged here. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll take a closer look at the storm surge and what makes it just so deadly. And we'll hear from a helicopter crew about what it was like bringing supplies and rescuing victims from Hurricane Helene.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have a mixture of clouds and sun on the way in the Northeast over the next couple of days. There's a broad upper low. You see it spinning up into Ontario and Quebec. That will spread a few clouds from time to time and a few scattered showers, particularly over northern New England and New York. Temperatures are running the 60s this afternoon. Notice some scattered showers developing tonight and into the day on Thursday. They're widely scattered. Shouldn't be a big deal. Temperatures on Thursday will top out in the 50s to near 60s. 60s with a lot of sun returns on Friday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We are going to see nice and quiet conditions in our neck of the woods with lots of sunshine, low humidity, very fall-like air mass in place. Just a reinforcing shot of some cooler air with a front approaching late Wednesday into Thursday. So temperatures for your afternoon on Wednesday, 70s down in the low terrains, the mountains up near around 60 degrees. It'll be a little bit cooler for your Thursday, mid-50s in the upper altitudes, lowlands in the low 60s.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed taking a look at the southeast. Most of the southeast is enjoying clear sunshine up around parts of Georgia and the Tennessee Valley, but down over Florida, they are going to be experiencing a major hurricane, possibly making landfall as a Category 3 hurricane somewhere south of Tampa or near the Tampa Bay region. We're going to continue to track this very closely as we go through the overnight Wednesday night and then in through early Thursday morning. It's going to be causing all kinds of problems with wind, flooding, and storm surge on the western edge of that state.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Fall phenomena with things in common. Great Lakes waterspouts and steam fog. Waterspouts form when the lakes are still warm. Cold air moves over the water, causing a huge temperature difference between the two. Waterspouts start at the surface, then move toward the sky. With steam fog, cold air also moves over warm water, mixes with the moist, warmer air, and cools until it reaches full humidity. Then fog forms.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
As we've mentioned, the storm surge from Milton could be catastrophic, with some describing it as unsurvivable. To get a better understanding of storm surges in general and why they're so dangerous, we turn to meteorologist John Gum.
Well, it's that push of water that comes in advance of the hurricane and as the hurricane makes landfall. You think of the winds out ahead of this thing blowing that water toward the coast, and that water piles up. The stronger the hurricane, the stronger the storm surge can be. So let's take a 3-foot storm surge, for instance, here. That comes up to the dune line along many beaches, may cause damage to the beaches. But when you start to get into the higher storm surge, maybe a storm surge of around 6 feet, which is going to be pretty common, it looks like, into the Tampa Bay area, that's when you start seeing flooding of homes adjacent to the water, adjacent to the coast here, especially on the first floor. The 12-foot storm surge not just inundates the lower levels of structures adjacent to the coast, it can inundate the upper floors, the second floor of these structures. And this storm surge is the most deadly part of a hurricane. It kills more people than any other aspect of the storm. And this is going to be a danger in Florida as this storm makes its way toward the coast.
Well, in the middle of all the tragedy in North Carolina following Hurricane Helene, there have been amazing stories of rescue and survival. One helicopter crew spent the last week delivering supplies and flying people to safety. Laura Husey has more.
By now, we've all seen the aerial videos. Western North Carolina looks like a war zone. It's one thing to survey that kind of destruction. It's another thing to scan for signs of life, hoping you don't miss anything and hoping you can get close enough. Angela Johnson and her pilot from Timberview Helicopters arrived in North Carolina just a couple of days after the storm. Now home in Destin, she still hasn't stopped to count the number of people they helped.
You want to just run to them and hug them and give them hope and pray with them.
This woman, hugging her dogs in the back of the chopper, seemed fine at first.
She was completely calm and collected, and then about halfway to the airport, she broke down on us and said, I just hiked 8 miles from my house to get to the town. I can't believe I'm alive. I almost fell down the ravine multiple times. I have these 2 giant dogs with me. I don't even know how they made it.
On they flew, following leads from locals and even social media. Their landing zones were tight and treacherous, small targets surrounded by power lines and debris. They found a 94-year-old woman who was completely cut off by washed out roads.
She opened her door and looked around and saw that helicopter and said, what is all that racket? And so when we told her it was there for her, she just lit up. You could just see the life come back in her. And
they dropped off supplies and even Starlinks with never a second to waste and always a desire to do more.
We are so blessed to be able to do this. This, like I said, this is truly our passion, to be able to be just out there.
As you can see, there are still so many victims of Hurricane Helene that need our help. That's why our parent company, Sinclair, is partnering with the Salvation Army to lend a helping hand. So funds raised will go to emergency aid, including clean water, food, and cleanup kits. Go to sinclaircares.com or scan that QR code on your screen right now if you want to make a donation. For some people, heavy rain means lots of water collection. Meteorologist Joe DiCarlo looks at how one man is using his rain barrel to help irrigate his whole property.
As drought conditions continue, available water in our ground is drying up fast.
Here in Comal County, in the last 28 months, the groundwater table has dropped 9.5 feet. That's tremendous. It's usually we see a foot per year.
The whole well started to kind of skip a beat. We'd go down to get water and all of a sudden there wasn't any water.
And it's not just drought to blame.
It's not a matter that people themselves aren't conserving. It's a matter of population growth is exploding.
Because of this, rainwater harvesting is becoming more popular. What is it?
It's collecting runoff off of a structure or some other impervious cover in order to store it for some later use.
We're here at James Garcia's ranch in Boa Verde. He decided to do rainwater harvesting about 3 years ago, and he's going to show us exactly how his system works.
This gutter and that gutter all roll down the hill to that pipe. So it picks up both sides of this. That goes down the hill into this part of the pipe over here. And it goes up and it pours into the tank.
Overall, the setup for James' rainwater harvesting system was $64,000. He says it was well worth it, as another well would have cost him $70,000.
The idea of being able to capture rainwater and store it in a tank was a wonderful idea. All we needed was a few rains to come by to start filling it. So it worked out really well.
The cost of setting up a rainwater harvesting system can range from a few $100s to several thousands, like James, depending on the size of your property.
Well, lots of us are taking advantage of the nice weather and cooler temperatures. Some may also be dealing with a few extra bug bites, but these actually aren't mosquitoes. Meteorologist Garrett Hyde explains.
And the bug in question here is often referred to as no-see-ums, and these tiny insects can pack a pretty painful bite for their size. But calling them no-see-ums is actually a bit of a misnomer. No-see-ums usually refer to 2 separate insects. The bug we are dealing with currently is called the minute pirate bug, which actually looks like a tiny stink bug or aphid. However, traditional no-see-ums refer to biting midges, which are actually small flies that do go after humans and are usually more active during the springtime. However, the minute pirate bug is a predatory insect that actually feeds off of plant and crop pests. And while both do pack a pretty painful bite for their size, neither pose any real health risks to humans. Usually, they only cause temporary pain and maybe a small bump where the bite actually occurred. In rare cases, there are some people who may have greater reactions to the bite.
Risks are very, very minimal, if not anything. And it's important to stress that they're beneficial in the landscape. They really are helping to manage pest populations that are otherwise feeding on our plants that we're growing for fun or just for food. So they're beneficial in that regard. It's good to have them around. They're just a minor inconvenience for us for small periods of the year because they've been out there all summer, but they're just annoying now because they're moving from a place where there's no longer plants, aka fields that corn has been harvested in.
And since the insects are seen as beneficial, there really isn't anything out there to really help control the population. And when you're using bug sprays, really just not that effective either.
Well, here's another example of wildlife taking over. A woman in the Seattle area has been feeding raccoons in her yard for nearly 35 years. She only saw a few at a time until 6 weeks ago when over 100 surrounded her. She was forced to run away, take refuge in her car, and call for help. The video serves as a reminder to people to not to feed wildlife. And time now for a short break, but first we're going to take some views of a vineyard in Rhode Island.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story. The next weather maker really don't have anything going on across the Midwest. Very quiet. 60s near the Great Lakes, 80s out in the plains, and 70s between the two. For the day tomorrow, still sunny across most of the Midwest and temperatures still staying near or just above normal for a lot of the Midwest and still dry heading into Friday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Things are a little cool this morning for our friends up in Little Rock, back over to Shreveport, into the 50s, 60s across North Texas. We're looking some 70s down to the south and a little humid. Got a weak trough sitting out across the state into Oklahoma. Won't do much. That's the big story. Hurricane Milton today. It's going to be another hot and dry time across the region. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Wednesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Compared to the worry out in the southeast, the Pacific Northwest is sitting very quiet. Partly sunny skies today for Portland and for Boise, with highs in the 70s and the 80s from Oregon into Idaho. Back to 106, however, out of Phoenix. We'll see the upper 60s around the coastal sections of California. Next weather maker dropping down the west coast will continue to throw a few showers into Seattle today. And that's the scene from here.
In central Wisconsin, the season to harvest cranberry is underway, but growers say a year of up and down weather has had an impact on their crop. Eric Peterson has more on this.
The harvest at Gottschalk Cranberry is in full swing. The fruit is raked from the vine, then corralled into the corner of this 3.5-acre bed. Fawn Gottschalk says concerns about the 2024 season started early.
We did not have as much winter as normal. My father says cranberry growers are the only people that wish for a period of below zero temperatures multiple days in a row, because that's when we make ice after we flooded.
Gottschalk says ice cover and applying sand help protect their hundreds of acres of beds.
We did not get any sanding done, and we did have a little bit of winter damage to our vines.
She says a wet spring turned into a very warm summer for these berries.
They like the hot and humid weather in July and August.
Meanwhile, these cranberries will be dried or made into sauce or juice.
We could actually use some cooler temperatures, especially at night. The cooler nights help color up the fruit.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Emma Withrow. Make it a great Wednesday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.